Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the IBD Hub podcast. We are today live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And as every week, we are going to introduce a topic about architecture, entrepreneurship, and innovation. Today, I have a very special guest from the UK, Jason Boyle. And together we're going to discuss his article, The Broke Architect. But before I introduce you to him, I would like to introduce a little bit the IBD Hub to the people who just joined us today. So we are a company that help architects and engineers to start their own business. And for the existing company, we are there to help in the business development strategy and marketing strategy. So at any point, you can contact me directly on LinkedIn if you need any advice or have any questions. You can also follow us on theibdhub.com. That's our website. And if you have any questions, you can either post them as a comment to the live, or you can DM us as well. So I'm going to introduce you Jason Boyle. But Jason Boyle is an architect specialized in the nuclear field. He has written the article The Broken Architect, which is available on LinkedIn, and has now launched his new YouTube channel as well. So hi, Jason.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Yeah, this is my first ever live on LinkedIn, so I'm super excited.
Yeah, well, thank you for being here. I'm very happy to have you on board, especially for this topic. So anybody that is online, please do comment where you are connecting from. The more likes and the more comments we get, the more people view it. So if you can help us out with some thumbs up or even just the location, that would be great. So today, Jason, we're going to talk about your article, The Broke Architect.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your purpose for writing this article and what you have found out throughout this article, actually?
Yeah. So first of all, there's part one, which is called The Broke Architect, and then there's a part two to it where so on the first article, I did a series of polls on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Where I asked a series of questions related to studying architecture, how much architects get paid, whether you're a part one, whether you're a part two, and just to get a real feeling about the market out there, because there's a lot of people who do salary surveys, who do research on this, but I wanted to really push it out to my 28,500 followers. And so I took them polls and then created an article based on what the polls were kind of indicating to everyone. And what I found wasn't very appealing. I found a lot of architects were working extra hours for not much pay.
Yeah.
I found the mental health side of things, which was in part two, was a real problem within architecture. I think we all suspect that is true. And so I did these articles just to highlight to everyone, what the issues are within architecture, so everyone's aware. So when you're going to study architecture, I think it's really important to understand, what is going on in the industry.
Yeah. We previously had quite some conversations, especially about, well, right now with the crisis, of course, there is a lot of architects that are looking for a job. There is others that are maybe struggling financially, so they're trying to do a side job as well. So it's definitely a big topic, and most of times when you think about people who study architecture and you ask them like, "Would you do it again?" Most times the answer is no. um, so I was wondering, like, what was your experience, your personal experience as an architect?
Yeah, my personal experience is yes, I did struggle. So when I qualified as an architect back in 2000, turning of the millennium, I started on a very low salary, and it was very hard to get a job. So I think, but what I did, instead of going to work for a particular practice,
Yeah.
I went and always went into practice and said, what job, what role am I going to do on a project? What project is it?
Yeah.
And I found that was always the best way to get the best experience, because I think too many people go into a practice, their first office or maybe their second office, and they will just be there just to get a job.
Yeah.
But I was always interested in what would be my role on that job, and
Yeah.
what exposure would I get to construction. And I think that is a that is a way I leverage myself throughout working in practice.
Yeah.
Then I found myself in a recession, like we have had in the past, these recessions, and it's very difficult to get work. I was lucky enough to find myself the opportunity to go into the nuclear industry.
Yeah.
The nuclear industry is, yes, it's funded by the taxpayer. There's a lot of work to do cleaning up, the legacy from the 1950s and 60s, but it's government funded, and it's almost like working in a client sort of role.
Yeah.
And it's specializing. So it's specializing, which is how I've probably benefited within the industry of architecture.
Yeah. I understand. Well, from your article, there is some striking points. So, of course, like the first like topic is money, right? Like in my personal experience, like when I graduated from and I was, working for a year in London as a part one architectural assistant, I was paid actually less doing a full-time architectural job than a cocktail waitress for 3 days a week. So I think many people can relate as well. Like we studied so hard to get to a bachelor or a master, and then of course the pay is not significant compared to the years of studies. And I think that's maybe what you found out as well, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not here. I'm not. I didn't write the article to put people off studying architecture.
yeah,
Let me just clarify that. But what I want people to understand is the reality of the situation you're going into. If you
yeah,
understand, you understand that money is a problem, then you can at least arm yourself with the tools to sort of work through that, and maybe do architecture because you love it and you're passionate about it, but you can also maybe do something on the side as well to help you get extra money in.
yeah. But my question is, why do you think this is the situation?
Why
Like,
why is it the situation? It's because we're undervalued.
yeah,
We're undervalued as a profession. There's been many articles written on this. Many architects I've spoken to agree with me. If you're undervalued as a profession, then no one's going to pay you a premium. There may also, this is quite controversial, there may also be too many architects in the industry.
mm,
That is another issue. But I think the profession of architecture is one where quantity surveyors, planners, project managers has kind of eroded our
yeah.
way in the industry. So I don't know what your thoughts are.
Well, yeah, as I said offline when we spoke about it, yeah, for me, there is two reasons for it. So the first one is the fact that I think that we don't teach architects enough um, to show their values and have a marketing strategy that works towards any clients. So they struggle to pitch in that way. The second reason is also the fact that, well, from since the first year of architecture, you start with 300 people and you finish with 30 people. So
If you're
uh,
lucky.
yeah, if you're lucky. So I think that there is also this philosophy of putting people under pressure, and kind of like break them down mentally and break down their ego for the project in order to, make them follow a certain system.
Yeah.
Another thing is probably that, before, architects were generalists and now we're more and more specialists into something. So that also breaks off the value of an architect if he cannot do the whole job from start to finish, or
Yeah.
see all the disciplines that are required. So yeah, I think that's also part of it. um, but I saw that in your article, the prime motivation to study architecture was people that really loved being an architect in the first place, like design and
Yeah,
um,
yeah, and I think is that the problem? Because we're so passionate about architecture, we love what we do, um, but then we need to pay the bills, we need to pay the mortgage, we need to survive in order to thrive. Um, it's that balancing act, isn't it? Do you do something you absolutely love, but you don't get paid for it? So I'm all about, like you are, finding ways that we can raise the value of architecture and being an architect, so we can actually thrive in the sort of construction industry, because what we do is a really, really important. Cities, urban environments, the great buildings of the world. When you go on holiday, generally, most people are going to cities and they're experiencing buildings.
yeah,
And architects created all of these.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I completely agree. It's the motivation is key. I don't think I know any architects that don't like what they do.
No.
um, but then, yeah, that also encourages different behaviors, also doing the the they do extra hours because they're so passionate about what they do, and they don't necessarily charge for it. A lot of my clients come to me and they ask me like, okay, I did the sketch design for the client, how do I now ask him for money? So there is something missing here, and I think we talked about it before together as well. Like, um, the missing part somehow is also the business skills that are not taught at university. I don't know what your opinion is about this, but there is a big gap there between architecture at university and then the actual world where you work, right?
Yes, I agree with that. I know some universities will definitely disagree with me, but I don't see the business skills that they're learning as adequate at all.
Yeah,
Uh, and you can become an architect and you can pass all of these courses, but um, if you're coming into a job market where there's very few jobs available at present,
yeah,
you've got an option to start off in practice on your own. How do you do that, as an architect, to set up on your own? It's hard, and that's where people like yourself come in and can help. Young architects starting businesses and getting the money from the clients and
sure.
approaching the client.
Yeah, strangely, like, a lot of my clients come in with some kind of trauma from their past career in like other firms. So we have a lot of traumas of people verbally abusing them, or treating them in the wrong way. So that's a combination between mental health and also overworked people. And I think that's also something that you mentioned in your article. Mental health is really a big problem as well.
It's a huge problem. It really is. If you're not healthy and you haven't got that mental capacity, how can you do your job properly?
Yeah,
How can you think properly? You're more liable to make mistakes. You can't work efficiently. And
yeah,
one of the things I do, like you said at the start, thank you, is the mentoring side. The mentoring side that I kind of teach is about how to use your time effectively,
hmm,
how to be productive,
yeah,
but not working them long hours. So it's all them sort of tips and maybe tricks that people would maybe label them as, but
yeah,
the people who I work with um, have come to me because they want to be more productive, but they want to have a really good quality of life outside of architecture,
sure.
and that's something that we need to get back to in the industry.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, personally, I had quite some bad experiences when I was, employed, because just simply because, um, well, my first company was an international company that is quite well known, and of course, they receive CVs of architects applying all the time. So uh, the idea was that, well, if you didn't like to do overtime and if you didn't like the way things were done, they would find someone to replace you, right? So that also opened the door to a lot of verbal abuse and mental abuse, which I think happens quite often, actually, more than we think, and is maybe not spoken of a lot. There is also a lot of architectural companies that hire international architects and think that they can take advantage of their position.
yeah,
And all of these things are quite surprising for profession as an architect, which used to have a status in the past. So I don't know what your thought is on that, but I think it's
yeah.
important.
We can't name those practices that do these things, but I think we all know that they're always going to be people who treat their staff badly, and obviously it's a shame that people don't come forward more. And I understand the reasons why.
Yeah,
No one wants to there's no one wants to rock the boat sometimes because we're in a market where the job market is pressured,
yeah,
um, and so this practice has obviously taken advantage of that, but I think it comes again back to the salary and the fees that architects get. I think
yeah,
if we got decent fees and we were more productive as architects, then we would have more resources to get more staff to do the work, so we'd have less pressure on
yeah,
ourselves. Because I think there's a lot of architects within practice that are taking on huge workloads, and that's affecting their mental health. And the directors are feeling the pressure of the practice as well
yeah,
because of the low fees. And it all for me, it all comes back to that initial fee structure that architects charge. And you'll probably get surveyors, you'll probably get structural engineers, you'll probably get mechanical engineers saying exactly the same thing as I'm saying, but something needs to change because people committing suicide, which is what happened in the article I wrote about a guy in New York who worked for a big practice in America. He couldn't handle it, and that's what we want to avoid.
yeah. How do you think we can improve the situation? Because for me, the only way that because this is like a little bit my purpose, is to change this field for more innovation and for the better. And my way to deal with it is to try to lift up the people who want to start for themselves, because they don't want to be employed anymore and in these situations anymore, and want to be a little bit more in control.
Yes.
um, but what is your opinion? What are the solutions?
Well, I think there's a number of different solutions. Obviously, talking about it's a great thing. That doesn't that that's just making these things public. I think
Yeah,
a little bit of that has been happening with certain practices that have been treating their staff badly,
yeah,
have been named in the press and shamed. The other way is what started in 2020 was a union for architects. I'm actually in a union and have been
hmm,
for 13 years, but it's not a specific union for architects. So that's one way where you can have a collective response to bad practice, and I think there's a growing movement of people who want something like that in the industry.
sure.
Um, they're sort of practical ways, but unfortunately, more and more people have to come forward and and say what they're going through,
Yeah,
because if people keep quiet, um, the movement won't start. It might start, but it'll die down again. So more and
yeah,
more people have got to come forward and complain and raise these as issues with the RIBA, with ARB, and every other professional institute in every country.
yeah. It's true that, I mean, in the UK, you're somehow protected by RIBA and ARB as well. Um, but of course, not all countries are organized in this way or have a regulation, let's say, for these kind of setups. So sometimes it can be like, I'm thinking about Dubai, or I'm thinking about even Italy. If you think about it, we don't have these structures where people can complain, or even regulations that those companies need to follow. So I think the UK is much more advanced in that respect, because you know uh, we have ways to back things up in a way.
It's advanced, but it's still happening.
Yeah,
So it's still happening, and I think the we have social media now. We have our cameras and our phones, and if there is bad practice going on, um, you know, people should be exposed, and that's the only other way I can think of
sure.
raising these issues, and that's why I was trying to. That's why I wrote the articles, just to raise the issue, really,
Yeah,
within the architectural and construction community, that it's quite evident that all of the architects who responded and the architectural students
yeah,
had experienced the same issues.
yeah. There was one more thing that um, I wanted to ask you. I know it's not in your article, but if we take the representation of women in the architectural field, what you can see is that, well, usually in first year, you're 50-50 men and women. And graduating, we have major, like, I don't know, when I graduated, we were 30, and I think we were three women in there.
Same
So
when I graduated.
and also, once we graduate, you can see that in the management team and in the higher positions are filled mainly with men as well. So, do you have maybe an idea of why that is?
Um, it's yeah, it's interesting how it starts off at 50-50 in university and then gets to a point where there's only a few women actually graduating compared to the men.
Yeah.
I it's a tricky one for me to answer that one. Could it be, I don't know, there's other pressures outside of that during the 7 years, because it is a 7 year um, experience. I don't know, but I think obviously what you were saying is about the management side within practice,
Also, yeah.
and what are them issues, and again, it's probably been a male dominated industry. That's what it was. But I do see it changing. I do think within my own company, 'cause I can speak for my own company, there's definitely more women coming through into management. I mean, it's
Yeah.
there's definite targets there, and the ability obviously was always there.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know what your thoughts are on why you think, in particular, the university side of things.
Well, for the university side of things, I found that probably most women thought it was a very long course.
Yeah,
So, you know, that it's not necessarily like, there is a lot of social pressure, let's be honest. So a lot of women, probably get married at a younger age, and have the responsibility of family and stuff, so they decide to maybe stop after the bachelor, or at least that they can, do be an architectural junior or assistant just with their bachelor, and see from there how it evolves. On the professional side, however, like, I have to admit that I see that a lot of women are fighting to get a position, like either as project leaders or in the management team and so on. And it's so hard to get there, and you feel like you have to fight with so many people to show your real skills, that I can understand some people that are like, some women that are like, you know what, I'm just, gonna chill and have my family and have a great life on the side of my job, rather than try to push through all these obstacles. Like,
yeah. Do you think it's lack of role models? I don't know. I'm just
no, I don't think it's lack of role models. I just think that as a woman, you have to work twice as hard. And I can understand that some people are like, what is it worth it? After 7 years plus the
yeah,
experience, plus having to show people that you are qualified for what you do. Yeah, is it really worth it in the end? Like, I think it comes from that um, work, and have to cross every single steps to get
yeah,
there.
yeah. No,
So it's like simple things. I was talking about it today as well. Like, um, I was project leader, and many times, like, I was walking into the meeting room, and they were telling me, like, they thought I was the secretary, and I had to get coffee. So it's just these little things that add up, and that make you think, like, why am I bothered? Like,
no, I know. I can't. I can honestly say it doesn't happen in the company I work for. Well,
yeah,
probably
yeah,
I'm very lucky. But
yeah,
I did have that when I first joined my first practice. As an architect, fully qualified architect, and I was, maybe I've got a young looking face,
yeah,
or did at the time, and they would look at me in the same way and say, "Oh, can you just get me a cup of tea?" And what, and just really disrespectful.
yeah.
And I was saying, "No, I'm the architect. I'm afraid." Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's, but like, these little things means a lot. So what I see now is a raise of entrepreneurship for women. A lot of women take a step back and think, like, okay, I'm just going to start for myself, then I can have the schedule that I want, and I
Yeah,
can reach out for the clients that I want and push things forward. And I think that the most important thing there is to make them aware of their value. And that's really a big topic in general for architects, but even more for women that are aspiring to be CEO or founders of their own company. So it's beautiful to see, but it's just a case to help them to rise up and be part of this field in a different way. I have a question from Ada. Any tips to secure grad positions after uni?
Yeah, okay. So if you watch my YouTube video, you will find plenty of tips. And what I would say is sending out a CV at the end of your 7 years to a practice like a cold CV. I think you've got very small chance of getting that job. What I always recommend is while you're studying, while you're going through that whole university experience, is to be targeting practices you really want to work at and start to build the relationships with them. That could be if they're presenting somewhere or speaking somewhere or doing webinars, get to know them, get to know the people, connect with them on LinkedIn. So you sort of building a relationship and making them aware of you. Builds up a social media presence as well. That's even critical because I communicate with people all around the world on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Instagram, and I get to know these people. And then when I meet them, they already know who I am. And that's the point you want to be at.
Yeah.
So as a graduate, you should have started 5 years ago. If you're in the position now, you know it's you've got to start. The best time to start is now. The best time to start was 5 years ago, but the best time again now is start now, and just
Yeah.
building up your brand as well is important.
Yeah, networking for architects is the most important
You should be
thing. Whether
networking every day, even when you're at university. You should be networking. Spend 10 or 15 minutes every day networking.
yeah. So, Jason, where can we find your YouTube channel and
Okay, if you
how
go,
can we contact you?
yeah, if you go over to YouTube, you obviously find my channel. If you type in my name, or if you just type in "how to study architecture and succeed," you'll find it there. Um, Please subscribe. I'm going to be pushing out videos once a week. I've set myself this challenge. Ideally, I should be doing two a week. So, and it'll be, I'm focused on definitely helping architects grow and graduates and people who are studying architecture from anywhere in the world. It's not UK specific. And I'll be interviewing some great people in the industry as well.
Okay.
So I've got some great people lined up as well who will give great value to everyone. I'm hoping anyway.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to see your YouTube channel grow and see all the nice content that you will prepare for us. Yeah, it's a new journey for you, so super exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is. And please, if you're not already connected with me, please connect on LinkedIn as well. I'd appreciate that as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jason, for coming here to the live. Has been
It
my
was a
pleasure.
pleasure. It was a
Uh,
pleasure.
and I hope that everyone gets, we had this discussion more like to express the frustration behind things, but we are also two people that are trying to change this situation.
Absolutely.
So if you have any questions or you would like to share your experience, I'm sure you can contact Jason or myself. to discuss it, and we will be available anytime to help. So, this episode will be published again on our podcast, the IBD Hub podcast. You can find it on Spotify and Apple Podcast and YouTube. So, please follow us too. And yeah, that's it for today. Thank you so much, Jason. Appreciate you
Thank
being
you.
here. See you very soon.
Thank you.